Hello, I'm Dr. Criselda Kananda. I invite you to please join me on Positive Talk as we journey together to find life-teaching moments. Let's talk love, life, and relationships through positive living. I hope this journey will inspire you to live your truth. True. Iposakala in not understanding each other's love language. Perhaps before we even get to that, I always say this, ukuthi abantu abave inhlungu bavisa abanye ubuhlungu. Hurt people hurt others. Yeah, so in order for us to stop hurting one another, as a person, I need to go back to the source of why I'm feeling the pain. Why am I hurting? It's possible sometimes, actually not just sometimes, most of the time, where uva inhlungu because of something that happened to you in your childhood, where you were never told that you are loved, or you were violated by somebody you trusted, be it its violation of sexual in nature, or violation in how the adults in your circle spoke to you. That many adults are children trapped in a hurt that happened early on in their development stage. And unfortunately, when that is not addressed, you grow up being that child who still experiences what happened then in their childhood. And you grow up being this person who's just going to go around hurting others because there's a void that was opened when you were hurt. So when what we see in our communities, what we see in our relationships are people who were stuck at the developmental stage, and at that stage, something traumatic, something tragic happened. And until you locate it, and this is why we advocate for people to go for counseling, because until you locate where and when the pain happened, it will be very difficult for you to then move on in life. It will be very difficult for you to be able to express what you don't know, because we can never give what you don't have. And oftentimes when you've never experienced the love, you've never seen love, you've never seen people who are in love, you end up making up what you believe should be love. And this is expressed in different forms and types of languages. There's a gentleman who was very generous, Gary Chapman. Dr. Gary Chapman penned a beautiful book that helps us to understand how people communicate. And in that communication, how do we then ensure that when I love you in the way that you relate to as love. And unfortunately, to answer your question, most people love from a self perspective. I want to love you the way I feel you should be loved. And that's not how love is expressed. Love is expressed in a way that means something to me. And how I personally relate to love and loving. And where things have gone wrong is where communication breaks down, where I've seen my mother or my father beat up my mother and saying the better because they're tanda. So I emulate that as a love language, because to me, my father was beating up my mother and saying uyamthanda. So that means luthando all. Or parents who are very lazy to parent children and have a conversation with them, beating up children and saying "Digbetha ngoba ndiyakuthanda." So we grow up distorting what love is and how love is expressed. That's where it emanates from. Because wenza into ayibone kutatakhe no tatakhe wayenza into ayibone kutatakhe, and therefore it becomes, a perpetuation of hurt people, hurting others, because yinto enziwayo ekhaya. I mean, I remember when I spoke about the abuse that I suffered in my relationship, my then mother-in-law said, "Yintoni intombi abantu bayabethwa all the time." omama bayabekezela bayanyamezela. And I think, it's those societal norms and social norms that we need to unlearn, because uthando alu expresswa ngokubetha. Umuntu xa ekubetha akakuthandi tu. You can never say ndimbetha because ndiyamthanda. Ayilothando olo tu. This baggage comes in different forms. It manifests itself in different forms. It's possible that somebody listening to us wants to know, how do I then know that the reality of what I call love is indeed love? And my simple answer is always, whether you believe in the Bible or not, 1 Corinthians 13, the entire chapter addresses love and how we should interpret love. And if whatever it is that you express as love does not connect to how God defined love, then you're in the right place. You can't be saying you are loving and be boastful and having short tempers, because when you do those things, you take away loving in love. And you allow yourself to come in. And most of the time, when self steps in, self or hurts other people. The simple act of truly loving yourself, because that's where it's going to start, is for you to recognize, given feedback by your previous relationships and where you are as well. Oftentimes, madoda, women will be telling you, "Ba andithandi xa usenza nje, andithandi xa usithi," and not listening to that, because when you listen to that, listen with the intent of being better. You then pick up characteristics that are making you or making it difficult for your partner to love you. So when your intention is to build in this relationship, when your intention is to be better in this relationship, you go back and look at my past relationships. What is the common trend? Every girlfriend, every woman I am with complains about my temper, complains about ubukrwada bam, complains about how unloving I make her feel, or how unloving the environment becomes, because you are self-centered. It's all about you. You don't consider the next person. And you take that feedback, you go to a counselor. A counselor does not have to be, a psychologist. It can be a couple that you admire in your community. Because often people banalanto ba, I won't have imali batali counseling, but you just go to a person who's respected, a couple that has been married for long. Either you find them online, read about their story, or perhaps you just approach them and say, I want to be a better man. What are the basics that I need to learn on how to be a better man? And using, my advice would be, use that scripture. Whether you do believe in God, you do believe in Christ or not, use that scripture, because it is a blueprint on how to be when you are saying that I love the next person. And there are different kinds and types of love, and we've known this, that there's a love that you love your child with, there's a love that you love your partner with, there's a love that you love your colleague with, and you must be able to differentiate between all those types and kinds of loving. And once you've recognized that there's a pattern, all these people are complaining about certain characteristics, my nature, and me hurting them does not make me any excited about life and love. Because when you hurt people you claim to love, it hurts you as well when you are human. So once you've identified those characters that are making it impossible for you to be relatable with, you then seek counsel. And that's where you start. It takes intent to want the relationship to be better for both of you. Because when you don't listen, when you don't pay attention, when you are not mindful of your actions, you wake up one day and she says, that's it, I'm done. and then you say uvele wandishiya. It does not always just happen in her just akushiya. It started with her indicating to you, andithandi xa usenze nje, or asikakhale, and you have to trace back, look at yourself, that ukhala xa ndisenze nje okanye uqumba xa ndisenze nje. And once you've recognized all those steps, you've recognized where your shortfall is, then you seek help. But in the helping, it's going to start with you accepting that it is a problem. The unfortunate reality is some men will recognize, but when I do these things, I hate them and bandishiye okanye bandale. But if you don't recognize it as a problem, because it starts with you being aware that is a problem, and then you accept that I do have a problem, I need help. And in the acceptance, that is going to lead you to the next stage where once we've acknowledged, we become honest about what it is that we are going through. And in the honesty, you reflect that nyani, I am short-tempered, nyani, I am self-centered, nyani, I hurt people with my mannerisms. Do you want to be better and change, or you want to stay the way you are and continue just hurting people? You end up being alone that has no one because of the choices that you make when you are in relationships. The reason it's called a relationship, it's not it's not an environment where you do you. It's an us environment. And in the us environment, you are cognizant of the next person's feelings, the next person's ambitions, the next person's wishes. Right now, it's good that we're unpacking the challenges that lead us not to acknowledge that people are different. And when I enter into a relationship, my aim must always be about pleasing this person that I claim to love. But you'll never be able to do that if you don't please self. So once you've acknowledged all these things, you are honest, you then regulate the feelings. In the regulation of the feelings, you are going to choose your actions wisely. That when she's upset, you're not going to further make it worse by and come back drunk as a skunk. You can't have a sober conversation when you are intoxicated, and the problem just exacerbates. So it's pointless for you to then decide, I'll just walk away from the conversation, and in the walking away from the conversation, I come back and think there's no way you can have a sober conversation with a person only. And some people will then decide, instead of addressing this shortfall, this problem that I have, I'm going to use a fist. So that uzonimamela. They will even say to ba problem yakho ba awundimameli. Are you a teacher in the relationship that wena funeka kusoloko ngimamele wena okokoko? That's not how it works. It takes two to tango. It's a two-way. There's no way in dancing khona o servayo khona o receivayo, and you can't do that when both of you are always just high up there, and most of the time booty would rather run away. And you know, like any car, and run away and come back with force now, wanting wulwa as a form and means of communication. You can never address any challenges xa usilwa. Izinto ziyathethwa. And ekuthetheni, be mindful when you speak and you talk to your partner, uthetha ngothando. Even the harshest of words come zilende softly in a person's soul. But xa uthetha ngenzondo, uthetha nge-aggression yokulwa, nizawulwa nyani. That's what's going to happen. I need to speak to my sisters because, you know, once a person humbles themselves and want to be corrected and want to be better, there's no point in consistently, without fail, pointing out the negatives about your partner. Because once you do that, they assume a defense mode. And then kuzoba lanto yokupusha back. Because, why are you talking to me like this? So once I've accepted that I have a challenge, sumanungola ngayo as a woman. And it's a weakness that most of us as women have, where you've highlighted the problem as a problem, and you need to then give the person a chance to correct it if they see your point of view. But if it's going to be about fixing the person, then you're now assuming the role of being a project manager. Ingxaki with men, nina madoda, the biggest problem ekhona ngoku is when I say to you, my type of an ideal partner is a person who does this, who does this, who does this. And then wena uzazi kahle uba usisquare, ufune ukufita into this round box, knowing that you are not supposed to be with this partner because they raise things that they don't want in a partner, but you will say, but I'll be that person just to get them to say yes. Once they say yes, you go back to your nature, and there starts a conflict. So inyani iyafuneka bethuna na relationships. Don't say you are something that you are not. Uze uti, I'm a professional, I earn this much, only to find that awunaso certificate se-security. Akokwa eyokuthenga isonka. Nithi nikwi relationship usisi, because Tina, as women, it's very easy to fall in love. Uti so fall in love with the person, and this is why I always say that walk away from falling, because isn't as folayo ziyaphuka. Grow in love, and in the growing in love, inyani iyathethwa, you are begging into etafuleni, as long as it's communicated with love and respect. And when a person then decides about this feedback abayifumanayo, they see it as an attack. That person is not ready to let go of that characteristic. So you are then going to make a decision and choice. Do you stay in a relationship with a person who just does not want to acknowledge that they were a round and you are a square, and there's no way in which both of you will work together in ensuring that at least around minimize that it manages to get into the square. Not every person ozawudibana naye will fit into this ideal person that you have in your head, because oftentimes as you say, what are my expectations, and then you go in the same breath uhambe uyocela uThixo ba khawundiphe ipartner. I want to be an honest man to an honest woman. uThixo akuphe what he knows you need. Ube wena unezakho expectations uba this is what I expect her to be like. These are the things, and bese uThixo akuphe what, especially xa uzawuya kuye uthi Thixo ndicela ipartner. Rather uhambe uyozicelela wena and you deal with ama expectations wakho that are not met, and not go back and blame uThixo, because once you pray to God for a partner, you need wena to then surrender to the will of God. And if you are not going to surrender to God's will, you will find a partner that wena you believe does not meet your needs, because oftentimes we mistaken wants to be needs. Uve umntu azawuthi ndifuna angabi ne stretch marks, abe hourglass okanye bottle of coke, ebe uye enabantwana abathathu. How real is that? Is something else. So now in your expectations, you need a reality check. And oftentimes the people who have these expectations, they are not perfect people themselves. So it's easier when you are going to manage. Love is about feeling, and once the feeling has been identified, but this is how I feel about this person, the next level is about what is it that I feel this person fulfills ebomini bam. And as long as those things are fulfilled, everything else, you work at it, and this is why you grow in love. It's not an instant thing. And also recognizing the difference between infatuation and loving, because when you've asked God for a partner, you will be tested, because God needs a testimony after a test. And you cannot have a testimony when you are going to find the instant coffee and believe, Gucci, that is love. That's not how it works. When you have said, Gucci, this is the kind of partner I want, God will expose you to the worst things about that person. And in the exposure on the worst things about that person, if post the worst things, you are still there, you are still holding it together, anything else can be worked at, because you're growing together in love. But if you are there, you want to ukushinela amajita, ufuna ukuba empilweni ka Criselda because uCriselda uzangiseta, unabantu abaziyo, you are going to be challenged with hard knocks. And you know, one of the things that we underestimate is the power of a praying woman. Andithandaza uThixo for umyeni, and you come into my space selling lies, as inhlungu oyivayo yokukhucula inwele from the skin. That's how difficult or how painful it will be when God roots you out of that person's life, because uze ngendlela malicious uthengisa into engekho. So in the management, this is the thing. When you cheat your way into this relationship, cheaters get caught. Cheaters get caught. You will get caught. Ubuwena, the real you, will come out at some stage, and when it comes out, you'll be found out. So the best thing you can do is just to be real with yourself, and in the reality with self. I mean, any challenge that gets thrown at a couple that has intense intentions of working and growing together, any challenge they are able to overcome. There is a woman out there who just wants a man who loves her. And there are so many of those women. That I want someone who will listen to me, who will care for me, who will just grow with me, who will be my partner in whatever it is that we do, who will cherish me. God said, love her. That's all you need to do. And she will, you know, there are women who just simply want a good man. Not necessarily good looking, and this is why you will find a not so good looking man married and expressing that I've been here for the past 40 years, and you wonder how did that happen? Because umtu nomtu unobambo lwakhe. When she says to you, I want a tall, dark and handsome, and then you go for the time that you are still courting, uhambe uyozigqaba polish so that you become dark, uhambe for the first time uye gymini so that you have a six-pack, even though that's not part of your lifestyle. You are not going to sustain that. You are not going to sustain that, because you are turning into somebody you are not. And the real you will definitely come out one day, and it's not going to be pretty. And umntu xa esithi you are not my type, walk away. Walk away. Amadoda wayiyeke lanto yoba I'll talk her into accepting me. I'll just buy gifts. When all those things fade away, nivala emnyango ekamereni, it's just the two of you. There's no Dubai flights, there's no gifts. It's just the two of you. Reality strikes. And these things lead to bitterness. It is not sustainable to buy things you can't afford, to claim a lifestyle that you have no business in claiming. When you enter into a relationship with honesty, and you are genuine in how you express your love, how you enact your love, it will reciprocate. Love is like a bank. There's no way you can go and withdraw money that you did not deposit. It doesn't work that way. What you put in is what you get out. And sometimes I read a quote one day that talks about a man's success is determined by the smile of the person he calls my partner. The bigger the smile, the more successful the man is. And oftentimes it's not the gifts that you have bought, but this person, when you say I love you, your actions speak to the words that you are using. Because women are receivers, they are emotional beings. Men act what they feel. Oftentimes it's difficult for men to even express how they feel. So they watch ndiyakuthanda. I need to see it in your actions. That's how God created us. That is how we are formed. That as a woman, I feel your actions. And if your actions, you say in your word that ndiyakuthanda or uthi nizawufika ngo-7 and then ufika ngo-11, you are not impeccable with your word. And that's not uThixo akamdalanga kanjalo umuntu ongutata. You must be impeccable with your word. You must be a leader. You must be visionary. I can't be sold into a vision that doesn't exist. I must be sold into your vision. This is why there's such a word as infatuation. Because your intentions in the relationship, I don't care where you come from, who you are. When you are with a person 15 years later, they're not sure whether they love you, you still a girlfriend that they don't commit to. There was never love. There's something that is a need that you are fulfilling for that person. And truth must just be told. And when you stay on in a relationship or with a person who's not willing to commit to you, because commitment does not always lead to just being married. Commitment may be we are committed to each other for life. We are here for the long haul, and both of us are giving what it takes to build a relationship. But when a person is willing to make you makwapeni for the longest time, and you say, I'm happy with being makwapeni, when you are with yourself during holiday season, abantu babo ne family zabo, the truth, reality strikes. And that reality will remind you. And it saddens me when you find a person who was committed to a married man 50 years later, old and gray, all by themselves. And sometimes it also happens where ulo makwapeni who's just so loyal to a person who is married. When this person dies, when this person dies, the family will not recognize you. There's nothing as sad as watching a person who's been there, and the family does not recognize you. You were a waste, but it's a choice that you made. Yes, we talk about these 5 love languages, but how do I know what my language is? You answer to yourself these questions. How do I express love to others? And how do I differentiate between love for my child, love for my partner, love for my gadgets, love for my career? How do I differentiate? So when I say I love Criselda, what is it that I do? And when you then express yourself in that, you must first answer that question. But self-love is very important. It's very important to have an element of selfishness in a relationship. With self-love, what you are saying to yourself, I must be feeling like this. So that you are able to then articulate to your partner. And if that does not come from within, if I don't love myself with the kind of love that I believe I deserve, it will be difficult for me to pour into our love bank. It will be difficult for me to love you. So the love must start with me loving self. and understanding who I is. And answering these questions. When I say I love a person, this is what I do. This is my understanding of me loving the next person. What do I complain about the most with people I claim to love? What do I request most often with people I claim to love? When you are saying that as a person I love, I expect X, Y, Z, and I equate that to love and loving, then that becomes your love language, and that's what you need to then articulate to your partner. You know, I'm going to say something that might be viewed as controversial, because sometimes you ask a question with the hope that they respond in the way that you would respond when you are cheated on. For me, it's a two-way stream. When a person is not fulfilled, you are opening a void that somebody else will fulfill. If I request time from you as your partner and you constantly don't have time for me, I'm going to find somebody who's going to fulfill that need. So we need to be, and I go back to this intent in the relationships. We need to be intentional. If I say to you in intimacy, I love kissing or I love sexual intercourse, and you downplay those things, somebody else is going to fulfill that for your partner. And oftentimes it has nothing to do with you not loving your partner. And this is why a person would cause so much harm and pain by cheating and come back and say, "Uxolo, my intention was not to hurt you, and ifuna ukukuluza." Because truly and honestly, it takes two to tango. I still say, even in the cheating, do introspection. People make decisions based on need. It's a need-based decision making. So when I need something that you can't fulfill, if we don't talk about it, I'm going to find somebody else who's going to do it on your behalf. So it's all good and well to point a finger at the person who's cheated on and just say, but how horrible you are, how can you do this to me? The easiest way of accepting the act without harming yourself, because when you make it about you, that how dare you do this to me, know that you are not the cheater, the other person is. And when they cheat on you, it's the highest form of disregard and disrespect for the union. But having said that, in the highest disregard and disrespect for what you are calling a relationship, you equally need to recognize the part that you played in leading the person. There are people, and I'm not going to take this away from people who cheating is just their nature. So when you forgive a person like that, you must then live with the decision that you made, that you are going to just be with this serial cheater. There are people who just can't help themselves. They love Utandi, but they want to play with Uzodwa no Tabiseng no, and all these people fulfill different needs. When you choose to be in a life of a person like that, you must know that that's what you've accepted as your reality. But if cheating is a deal breaker for you, don't accept cheating as you know, somebody just made a mistake. If it's a deal breaker, I am telling you, you will never forgive this person. You'll continuously say, okay, let's move on. But you'll, back of your mind, you'll always go back to that incident and see it as the worst form of betrayal. People must stop personalizing other people's actions. And I hope that's clear. Because when I do something to you, to harm you, to hurt you, take it for its intent and purpose. Don't okay, uchitile zamkolela for now. What does ukolo mean to you? Because if this person is a serial cheater, it's their nature. Why are you staying? And there's no honor emntwini ohlala axolela into ezingekho right amane sithi I stayed mina for 50 years endenza nje khawumjonge ngoku. There's no honor, there's no badge of honor in that. And it's brutal kakhulu kuni otata. I don't know what is it about you that it's okay for you to cheat and be forgiven, but when the woman cheats, kuba ngathi kukho le mela engene enhlizweni, it cuts so deep. But the pain is equally the same. And one of the things that I need to emphasize on, you cheat, I say I forgive you, based on what you are saying. What you are saying makes sense at the time. And uphinde kwakhona, I talked about the love bank. If ubhizi udeposita ama notes are fake, that there's no value in fake notes, bank notes. Therefore, I won't be able to withdraw any value out of that relationship. There's this thing that is called fading tingle, where continuously you causing harm and umanusiti, I am sorry. Just like any car, each time it goes to a panel beater, it's not the same anymore. The heart is exactly like that. Each time umbeta, uklasha, usithi ndiyaxolisa, there'll come a time when there's zero value in your relationship, and she will say enough is enough. Akushiye. Uzakushiya, zawahamba. And for women, you can never say, I forgive you when you have not forgiven. Don't ever do that. Because unforgiveness leads to bitterness. And if bitterness is that you are drinking poison. Because I forgive you, and he walks away believing but he's forgiven. He continues with his life. Where now bitter, the bitterness is like you are drinking poison and you're hoping he dies. And unfortunately, you are the one that continues to kill yourself slowly. There's a simple saying that we use on umhlobo wenene, but kumnandi ukuthanda. That means it begins with self, because I can't give what I don't have. So kumnandi ukuthanda, kumnandi ukuthandwa, kumnandi ukuthandana. But it starts with I, what I feel about me. And the reality is, once again, what love is gets distorted by izinto that we've gone through as human beings. I-content yakho on how you describe love is dependent on what you've been exposed to as a child, as a young adult, and nasemchatweni. So if those things are not corrected, your perception of what love is not corrected, your understanding of what love is becomes distorted. And when you say, I love you, your actions are different because you don't mean it. We're talking emotions here. People's emotions. What are your intentions? If your intentions are to find a life partner that you want to build a life with, nakhe i-relationship, nakhe ikhaya, nakhe i-wealth, that's the route you are going to take. You are going to invest in your love bank. But if you are a chaser insizwa who just can't stop, unfortunately kukho izigulo ezizakustopa on your tracks. And it's a choice that you are making. And I'm not saying whether it's right or wrong. Bottom line is there are things that you are going to expose yourself to. And over and above izigulo ezikhona, there's also spiritual ties, sexual spiritual ties, where you are going to be intimate with a messed up spirit that this woman who's been hurt so many times. Then there's soul ties where you are going to end up being a person, a character that you don't understand because of those sexual spiritual ties. It's up to you. You can choose to be that insizwa that always hunts, or you can be a insizwa that focuses on what is it that you need in a relationship. What am I looking for? How do I express love to others? What do I complain about all the time in a partner? What do I request most in a partner? And as you answer these things for yourself, you then define your love language. And when those things are fulfilled for you, you become content. I can bet everything that I have that when a man has found the one, akanalo neso lokujonga somebody else. But when you are seeing her as a prey that needs to be chased, your goal is to get her, tame her, and move to the next one. That's your character. That's a choice that you are making. But if it is love that you are seeking, you don't measure or count the times. We spoke so many times, wavele walahla nje, easy come, easy go. You focus on the value of the relationship, and you can't place any value on something that you don't see value in. There's no worth for you. You see her, you define her as an easy target. So you are not even going to reap the benefits, the rewards of being with a fellow human being who is there to fulfill a role in your life. You saw yourself as just a chaser. This message is brought to you by Positive Talk Services. Let's talk.